Great to be with you again this morning as we celebrate this 23rd Sunday of Ordinary Time, especially if we have any guests or visitors today. If today is your first day with us or you're coming back to church after a little siesta, it's great to have you. I want to say welcome to anybody who's joining us today. It's a real gift to have you as a part of this family here at Christ the Redeemer. I have to say that after being here for a month now, that my heart is filled with gratitude for lots of things. I hope you see how beautiful the Parish family here at Christ the Redeemer is, because I sure do. You know, a lot of times you come in, you come out, you go through life, and you perhaps have been here for a while, and it may be difficult for you to see the gift that you are, but I really just want to say thanks today. And my father taught me that gratitude is most authentic when it's specific. So I want to specifically say thank you for some very specific things. And it all revolves around generosity. Thank you for your generosity of heart. Many of you have really opened up your heart and have allowed me in. Whether it's conversations in the foyer or a cup of coffee in the break room, or those of you who have stopped by my office. I've averaged at least 4 visits a week, and those have been extraordinarily blessed in people's homes. And however it's happened, so many of you have opened up your heart. It's really easy to love when the other wants to be loved and gives me permission to be loved. So thank you for being generous with your heart. Secondly, I want to say thank you for just the generosity of time. There's an amazing spirit of cooperation and community here in our parish family. Stuff just happens. I wake up and the church is open, the lights are on, everything's set up for Mass. I just get to vest and walk on in. At the end of the Sundays, people shut down the lights. Everybody's got their own little task. I just know things are going to go where they need to go, and we have a beautiful plant, and the grass is cut, and Adoration Chapel is flourishing, and just so many of the little things in life. And for those of you who are married, you know that love is often expressed in the little things. There's so many of the little things just happen here. I don't know who does half of it, but I just know it gets done. And so thank you for your generosity of time. And then finally, my father always taught us to notice the details, and as a father of this family, I just want to say thanks for all of the very particular details. Like, for example, your generosity with God. The tithing in our parish is amazing. I just want to say thanks. I don't talk about money often. I don't plan on doing that. But I just want to say thanks today. Our tithing is incredible. Last year, we were good stewards with that, and we want to continue to do that. But just want to say thanks for your generosity. There's much to be grateful for, and as somebody who is joining the parish family, it's a real gift to be here. So thanks for being who you are. Amen? It's important that we stay there in the gratitude, especially as we read today's gospel. Wow. I'm not quite sure if you caught all the details there, but there's a line or two that can really sober you at the beginning there. I'll read it for you. It says, "If anyone comes to me without hating his father or mother, wife and children, brothers and sisters, even his own life, cannot be my disciple." If you don't hate father and mother, wife and children, brothers and sisters, even your own life, you can't be my disciples. Laughing with somebody at the 7:30 Mass, they said, "I wish Jesus would have said something about my in-laws, because that would have given me permission to hate my in-laws." I said, no, that's not what Jesus is talking about. Check this line out. "In the same way, if anyone does not renounce all of his possessions, he cannot be my disciple." Just want to let you know, we got a big bucket on the way out of church. You can drop all of your possessions out there. Amen? All right, here's the thing. There's just, in philosophy, there's this thing called the principle of non-contradiction. That means that something cannot be true and not true at the same time. The principle of non-contradiction cannot be true and not true at the same time. Jesus is not going to contradict all the truth that he has already proclaimed. As he said, "I have not come to abolish the law, but to fulfill the law." Jesus is not going to contradict anything in the Old Testament. So as the commandment, "Honor thy father and mother," is clearly the foundation for family relationships, Jesus is not contradicting that commandment when he says, hate your mother and father. That's not what he's getting at. In fact, today we read this incredible gospel from chapter 14 of the Gospel of Luke, and actually the word disciple is where the emphasis is pointing to. In fact, the word disciple appears 3 times in today's gospel. It comes on the heels of this stretch in the Gospel of Luke where Jesus has talked a lot about discipleship. He called the disciples in the early movements of the Gospel of Luke. In fact, in Luke chapter 9, he gathered the disciples and asked them questions about what they were hearing on the streets. So today's gospel is actually as much about discipleship as it is about anything else. Now, here's the interesting thing about Jesus Christ. If you look at the phenomena of religion in the world, Christianity is the only religious movement in the entire world, in the history of the entire world, where the founder of that religion actually intentionally draws attention to himself. Buddha would never draw attention to himself. He would talk about the enlightened way. Muhammad would never draw attention to himself. He would talk about the revelation that was given to him. Confucius would never talk about himself, draw attention to himself. He would draw you to the path of life. But Jesus, the only religious leader in the world that not only drew attention to himself, but actually considered himself to be the actual fundamental litmus test to be a disciple. In fact, in Luke chapter 9, just right before we were today in today's Gospels, he gathers his disciples and says, who do the people say that I am? Doesn't ask the disciples, hey, what are people talking about my sermons? Do they like the sermons? Because I can write a book, I can do some stuff on CD. Jesus doesn't say any of that. Jesus doesn't say, hey, are people talking about my miracles? I know that whole thing of healing on the Sabbath, that kind of rubbed people the wrong way. Are people okay with my healings? He doesn't say that. Jesus specifically interested in one thing. Who do people say that I am? Do they get me? Do they understand me? Are they truly ready to follow me? So as we look at this gospel today that kind of points us to discipleship, we have to embrace the fact that as Christian disciples, we are following a person, not a set of teachings. We're not looking at a code of living, another philosophy for life, another way to win friends and influence people. When we are Christian disciples, disciples of Jesus Christ, we are following a specific person. Being a disciple is about a person. In fact, our Holy Father, Pope Benedict XVI, in Deus Caritas Est, his great encyclical on love, in the opening volley, the very first paragraph said, and I quote, being Christian is not the result of an ethical choice or a lofty idea, but an encounter with a person that gives one's life a new horizon and a decisive direction. Being Christian is about a person encountering a person of Jesus Christ. And when we know the person, when we know him in relationship, then today's gospel is animated with that communion. And we understand, as he talks about discipleship, that we are to love nothing more than we love God, i.e. the true point of the gospel. It's about relationship. It's about a person. So I was kind of praying with that, and I was looking at our hearts, and I was looking at where we're going over the next several Sundays. And so today is the first of 5 homilies in a row where we're going to talk about Jesus. Who is Jesus? I'm going to start a series today. Today is part 1 of a 5-part series on who is Jesus. Now, if we're going to understand Jesus, we have to understand God. So come back up with me for 30,000 feet. Let's look at the big picture. Let's just talk about who is God, because it's important to know, as I realized this week, that my life is not essential for God's life. It dawned on me this week. Check this out. Father Mark is not necessary for God to exist. Now, I have to remember that a whole lot of times. I could die tomorrow. This parish would continue. Life would go on. The sun would still rise. The seasons would unfold. The saints would beat the Falcons. All those things would absolutely happen. Amen? My existence is not necessary for God. Check this out very reverently. Let me invite you into this. You ready? Your existence is not necessary. You don't exist because God needs you. God could live for all of eternity without you. In fact, your existence is not necessary for the continuation of civilization or the continuation of the universe. The sun would still rise tomorrow if you didn't exist. So if we don't exist because we're necessary, why do we exist? Because we are desired. God wanted us. That's why we exist. We believe in a God who is a God of desire. And that desire pours forth an initiative. Who took the initiative in Genesis chapters 1 and 2 and all of creation? God took the initiative. He's the one who made creation. Who took the initiative in forming the Jewish people and having a chosen race? God took the initiative in Moses' life and Abraham's life and the Jewish people's lives. Who took the initiative in the incarnation, at Christmas? Who took the initiative at the Annunciation? God did. Because God desires us, because God desires to be known, what we know about God is that He is a God of initiative. And if Jesus Christ is the full revelation of God, then what we know about Jesus is that Jesus always takes the initiative. Jesus always takes the initiative. Say that with me. Jesus always takes the initiative. That's really important for us to just know right now that as we get to know the person, as we want to follow the person, what we need to know about the person is that Jesus Christ always takes the initiative in our life, and that's really good news. Why? Because we don't live in church. I don't know who you're watching the game with today, but you might watch the game with somebody who doesn't believe in Jesus. You might watch the game with somebody who would say, Buddha and Muhammad and the Jewish people and Jesus Christ, all manifestations of the same God, believe in whatever you want. That's not what He says. That's not who He is. The world that you live in is going to present to us an image of Jesus that's not who Jesus is. That's exactly why Jesus, as He sent the disciples out, wanted to know, what did the world say that He is? Because Jesus knew that the disciples, if they were going to understand what it means to be a disciple, had to understand who Jesus is. Now, here's what I know about a lot of us as you're raising kids. A lot of us are raising kids. That ain't easy. Some of you have raised your kids and they no longer live in your house, but they still live in your heart. And as moms and dads, for those of us who are raising families, what I know is real is that you pray a lot for your kids. Or you pray a lot for your marriage. You pray a lot for your family. Some of you have raised your kids and your kids used to come to church with you and they no longer come to church with you. And you're praying for them today. Some of your kids have hit a bump in the road or they just can't turn the corner, and that's what you're praying for today. I just know that a lot of moms and dads, folks who are raising families, you often pray for your kids, or even back that up, you pray for yourself. I know that a lot of us, as you pray, you want God to be there. Here's the thing. Jesus Christ always takes the initiative. So that before you sat down to pray, He got there first because He takes the initiative in our prayer life. You don't have to say the right words to get God's attention. You already have it. He's taken the initiative in your prayer. And even when God doesn't seem to answer your prayer, He seems quiet. He's not answering your prayer when you want. What we know about Jesus is that He's always taken the initiative, especially when you and I pray. Or, when it comes to sin, feeling worthy or unworthy. As we get to know each other, I've told you more about my life, but this is what I do a lot of times. I desire God, and a lot of times I call to God with my hand, and I walk away with my feet. Like, hey, God, come to me. I really want to be in relationship with you, and I'm backing away the whole time. Why? Well, because I think, like so many people, I have things in my past that I'm ashamed of, and this is what I think about happens when it comes to those things. I think it's easier for us to let God forgive us than sometimes it is for us to forgive ourselves. Amen? And I look at, a couple seasons in my life where I hurt people, and I know that I hurt them, and I should not have hurt them. And I believe God's all good and He's all love, but I'm not. And boy, it's just real hard for me to forgive myself. I look at you every Sunday. I see your hearts. I know you want Jesus. Sometimes I look at my own life and I'm like, I want you, Jesus, but there's things in my past that sometimes I wonder, can God really forgive me of that, or can I let go of that? Here's the thing. Jesus Christ always takes the initiative. He's pursuing me there. He's pursuing you there. If you're in church today and you've got a checkered past, or you've got one thing that you can't let go of because you can't forgive yourself, if you feel unworthy in this place today, just know that God is pursuing you there. He's taking the initiative there. He's reaching out to you there. And as He called you, just like He called the other disciples, He knows about your past, and He's still calling you. And that's good news for us as we follow Him, that we don't have to be afraid of what would happen if Jesus found out, hey, He already knows. Amen? Or finally, I think a lot of times in life we want direction. God, what do you want me to do? Reach a point in your marriage where your marriage at this stage is not what your marriage used to be, and you need to know what to do. Or you've reached a point in your career. You don't like what you're doing as much as you used to like what you're doing. You still have enough time to perhaps redirect. Lord, what do you want me to do at work? Your finances, your kids. A lot of times I think we want direction. Lord, what do you want me to do? And a lot of times as we face the future, a lot of times we can feel alone and wonder, God, what do you want me to do? The God that we're praying to, those aren't just words, it's a person, and Jesus is taking the initiative in every direction of our life. And He may not show you the whole thing, but I can promise you this, because He has taken the initiative in our life, Jesus Christ will always show us what the immediate next step is. So you may be asking God what you want me to do, and Jesus say, I want you to do this today, this thing right here. Learning how to trust in His initiative in the small things allows us to trust Him when it comes to the big things in life. So the good news for all of us as disciples is we have a God who's not disengaged from life. He is active and alive in our lives, in the details of our lives, in the ordinary details of our lives. Jesus Christ, He's real. It's not a figure on a cross. He's active. He's alive. And He's calling every one of us to follow Him. And we can trust Him. And we can let Him love us. As His disciples, we can trust today that Jesus always takes the initiative. Amen?